when I think about people who are legendary, when I think about people who made an impact on society, when I think about people who we will never forget their stories, they have the same 24 hours that we do, but the difference is, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Pursuit of Excellence family. I'm Daryl Williams, and I'm here to help you maximize student growth by developing their life skills, mindset, and character. And today, we're talking about my favorite life skills that you have to teach the students in your class. In the last video, we talked about the reason why you have to set life skills. So I'm going to link that in the description below if you want to learn about that, the whole why behind why life skills are so important to teach, because good teachers teach subjects, but great teachers teach students. And today, we're just going to talk about my favorite life skills that you have to teach to your students. Now, these are in no particular order except for the very last one, so make sure you stick around to the end to see my favorite. But first, let's get it started with conflict resolution. Conflict resolution is huge, and it's definitely a life skill that you have to explicitly teach to students, because conflicts are something that everybody's going to face at some point. Even those who like to try to avoid conflicts are going to find themselves facing a conflict. And those who can't resolve conflicts are those who find themselves in a lot of issues. Whether there's a conflict with a family member, a coworker, or something like that, if you don't know how to deal with that conflict or to safely resolve that conflict, that's what leads to the relationship breaking or there to being discord in the relationship. And if that's a professional relationship, now we're out of a job. Our whole goal is to make sure that we are helping students to become successful human beings. And a successful human being understands that I'm gonna face conflict, and they need to know how to go about dissolving the conflict and resolving the conflict in a healthy way. The next thing we have to talk about is financial literacy. Oh my goodness, you don't know how many people are financially illiterate. It doesn't matter how much money you have, right? You can have a lot of bit of money, you can have a little bit of money, but it's all about how you use the money that you have. How many of us know that there are so many people who have a lot of money and are broke, right? They have a lot of money, but they're in debt to student loans, they're in debt to car dealerships, they're in debt to home and finances. Like, they don't understand what credit is, things like that. But there's some people who make a far less amount of money, but they know how to live within their means and they know how to budget the money that they have. See, what happens is a lot of people end up in financial troubles early in their adult life. So early 20s, maybe late teens, they end up into financial troubles. And what happens is for the next decade or so, they're trying to dig themselves out of a hole that they created. So now that postpones their financial freedom later on in life because they spent 20 years just trying to correct mistakes they made when they were young. But if we can teach students how to be financially literate at a young age, they can hit the ground running and they can become financially free quicker than somebody who had to dig themselves out of a hole. And that's what we want for everybody. Not because money is the solution to all of your problems, but being free from financial stress is huge, and it can free you up to focus on other things rather than thinking about money problems all the time. Now let's talk about stress management. Just like conflict resolution, everybody's going to deal with stress at some point. And everybody's going to need to know how to deal with their stress, because those who can't deal with stress are those who become overwhelmed. And when they're becoming overwhelmed and they're overworked, they can't focus on the things that matter because they feel burdened down. I kind of think about it like an elevator. If the capacity of an elevator is 1,000 pounds, if you put 200 pounds in it, you'll be fine. 600 pounds, you'll be fine. Even honestly, 1,000 pounds in it, you'll be fine. But if you put 3,000 pounds inside the elevator, it's going to struggle to lift to the next level. It's going to struggle to get to the next level, right? Because it's too much weight trying to weigh it down. It still wants to function. It's still going to try to function, but it's not going to be able to function at optimal strength because too much is weighing it down. And that's the same thing when somebody's struggling with stress, because there's so much weighing them down. Even if they're trying to get to the next level, they can't, because their mind is just bogged down with so many different things. And what happens is when we don't know how to handle stress and we don't know healthy coping mechanisms, what we do is we try to take things into our own hands and try to figure out how to do it. And we end up a lot of times with unhealthy coping mechanisms. And that leads to addiction, and that leads to drugs, and that leads to relationships that are not healthy because we don't know how to handle the stress that we are facing. But if we can teach students how to handle stress, then that's going to free them up to work at optimal strength in any situation, because they know how to take care of themselves and they know how to handle the stressful situations that are thrown their way. The next thing that I think is so huge is a growth mindset. I love teaching students the life skill of a growth mindset, because a growth mindset says when things get tough, I get tougher. A growth mindset says, I can do hard things. A growth mindset says, with hard work and perseverance, things that seemed impossible are far more likely. And we need to teach students that not everything is going to be easy. They recognize that I can't do everything the first time I try it. But we have to build up that grit, tenacity, and resilience within students that says, even though this is tough, I'm strong enough to be tough as well. Even though this is hard, I'm capable of doing hard things. Even though I don't know how to do this right now, I'm strong enough to work hard enough to figure it out. And that's some of the skills that we have to teach students, because even after they leave our classroom, even after they leave our school building or leave school, when they step out into society, there are going to be situations in which they don't know how to do it on the first try. They don't know what they need to do. But rather than shut down and say this is too hard, we need to build students that say, I don't know how to do this yet, but I'm sure that I have the tools to figure it out. And that's the difference between somebody who struggles consistently and somebody who ends up being successful. Another huge life skill that we have to teach students is about goal setting. Because what goal setting does is it increases intrinsic motivation. You know, sometimes we try to give students Jolly Ranchers, or we try to give students candy to have them sit down or to do the right thing in class, because they're not intrinsically motivated to just want to do good. But what goal setting does is it helps to intrinsically motivate students, because now there's something that I want. There's something I'm working towards. If I set a goal and commit to it, now I really want to achieve that goal or to get that satisfaction of achieving that goal. So I'm going to work really hard to get there. So if we're setting goals with students in our classes, our goal could be to get an 80% mastery at the end of the year or something like that. Whatever the goal is that we're setting, now students are more motivated to actually achieve it. And that spills into other areas of life, because now I'm motivated to be able to make the basketball team. I'm motivated to learn that song on that instrument, right? I'm motivated to try something new, to learn how to cook. So now we're motivating them or allowing them to set goals to motivate themselves to achieve things outside of the classroom. And that's what it's all about. So before we get to the last one, which is honestly my favorite one, thanks for sticking with me so long. Remember, in the last video, I talked about the why behind we have to teach life skills to students. So make sure you check that out if you haven't done so. I'll link that in the description below. But my favorite life skill to teach students, my favorite hands down life skill to teach students is time management. Time management is huge, because I honestly believe that time is one of those things that, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of race or ethnicity, regardless of the household income or things of that nature, everybody has the same 24. And there's not many level playing fields here on this earth, but everybody has the same 24. And what you do with those 24 hours is what determines how successful you'll be. That's the difference between a legend and a loser. I don't want to offend anybody, but that's the difference between somebody who ends up becoming legendary and somebody who's a loser, somebody who does not know how to manage those 24 hours that we've been given. When I think about people who are legendary, when I think about people who made an impact on society, when I think about people who we will never forget their stories, they had the same 24 hours that we do, but the difference is they knew how to allocate their time towards things that are going to help them to be successful. See, I see time management as kind of like budgeting. And in layman's terms, what a budget is telling something where to go so you don't wonder where it went. And time management is telling your time where to go so you don't wonder where it went. People who are successful time managers deal with less stress because they're more organized and less stressful situations just randomly appear. People who are successful time managers are often more successful financially because they understand how to work hard and stay organized and to make money. People who are successful time managers also often have strong family relationships because they recognize how to prioritize family, right? And how to section time aside for work, for family, for personal relationships, for self-care. They understand how to organize all that so that they are more well-rounded and they're not getting burnt out by spending too much time at work, or they're not being laid off for spending too much time at home, right? They're more organized and more intentional about the way that they spend their time so that they can allocate time correctly so that they can be strong in all different areas. And that's what we want for students. Remember, good teachers teach subjects, great teachers teach students. We're not just focusing on the content area that we teach. We want to help these students be successful human beings, and successful human beings know how to manage time. So those are my favorite life skills that you have to teach to your students. And in the next video, I want to talk about, like, when do we even have time to do this? How am I going to teach time management All right, how am I going to teach stress management? How am I going to teach financial literacy while trying to teach my content as well? In the next video, we're going to talk about how to marry the two, how to teach your content while also teaching life skills to students. So subscribe so you don't miss that. In the meantime, check out this video that I told you I would mention, talking about the why behind why we need to teach life skills. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.